But what do you find is more challenging? Like, do you find social media is very challenging as creatives, or do you feel it's benefiting us in your experience?
That's the thing. I mean, it's to me, it's like the yin and the yang. So as much as I say, like, there's some difficulty of perhaps being an artist, I think it's been pretty helpful at the same time as an artist, because now it's like, you have um, people are getting access to you that you necessarily wouldn't have had access to
Mm-hmm.
in the generation before us. So the great thing is that I think that you kind of have a freedom of creativity, on social media.
Yeah, of course.
It's great. So I always tell people, okay, take a musicians today, artists of musicians today, right? So one rapper, what's his name? I think Tyler the Creator.
Okay.
I was reading his bio the other day, and I always tell people about this guy because he originally, when he started, like, he wasn't interested in catering to what was kind of popular per se.
Mm-hmm.
He's very much interested in creating music that he liked, and his people who were creating with him at the time liked.
Right.
And from that, he grew his own fan base. Now, I think that's pretty cool because, like I said, long gone the days where you had to cater to certain groups and all that. Like, that's still very much a thing to a degree. Mm-hmm. Right. But there's now room for other stuff to come in and to have a life, if that makes sense. And I think that's where social media comes into play here today.
Well, creating a niche market and that following, and then you can grow from there, kind of thing, right? Like when Joe Rogan started, it was mostly for like people in comedy, or just, I guess, for men. It was very, testosterone driven. He was always talking about MMA and UFC and all that stuff. And then he was explaining that he would branch off into explaining about conspiracies, and we talk about politics, and we talk about relationship dynamics and the importance of, keeping fit. And again, now it's the number one podcast in the world for a reason, is because it grew to mainstream, right? It started off very niche, and then now it's mainstream. And back to your point, is that's how kind of we have to look at it. I always tell my friends and colleagues, people in the industry, is what I'm doing right now, it may be small, but this is the steps into building, a bigger audience, right? You have to start really small. You have to kind of create a following, and just inch by inch by inch, and just let people know what you're all about. Another example I would give is, Gary Vee's interesting character, but he says a lot of points that hit hard, and he always says the market will decide, right? There's very no true. Judgment, no matter what color you are, no matter, what religion you practice, the market will decide. The market doesn't give like an F. And he says, you know what I mean? Like, he was yelling once, and he went on a rant, and he's like, they don't care if you're an alien, a fucking a tree. The market, if you're good, the market likes you. And it's like, yeah, you know what? It makes sense. Like, you see it all the time, like the content that gets likes or goes viral, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
some of it's interesting.
Yeah,
some of it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure, right? Are you on TikTok by any chance? Are you making a presence?
I have like a small account, but it's not something I use.
Not as much,
No. I think I posted maybe a couple times, but that's.
Well, and then you just took it down because you realized you have to do too much twerking.
Oh, it's a lot of work. Honestly, I think as a content creator on like YouTube or TikTok or any of those platforms, it's a lot of work.
No, 100%. I struggled a lot with kind of adapting to, like you said, like YouTube and TikTok for a while, because I was trying to figure out how can I. The important thing is to keep consistent, or find a way to, right? And that's why, we all stop and say, oh, I'm done with posting, is because there's only so many ideas you have, or, it's also an awkward platform, right? Like, as storytellers, how do you get a message across, especially us that like to tell deep stories, like in a minute, you know what I mean? Or something captivating. So that's why I started these vlogs, right? And these corner talks, whether it's the podcast or just discussing things that can help people, whether it's in the film business, mental health. So I guess it's just finding different avenues to stay creative. Because the reason why I say this is because people think with TikTok, you need to do dance videos and you need to do all these comedy sketches. But in reality, you could just really post anything as long as it has some meaning or is entertaining at the very least, right?
I was going to say though, I honestly think, I don't know if it's the actual creation that's the hard part per se, but it's more so just being able to stay relevant, and that's the hard thing, because it's like, let's say, okay, let's say I made a video today, and it's just a silly video of me drinking water, and I spill the water on me.
Right.
Like it's it's short. It could be funny,
Right.
but the unfortunate thing is that, well, there's two other people who have maybe similar videos who go the extra step that I didn't go,
Mm-hmm.
and now that's popular, and now it's almost like you're trying to find a way to outdo other people, right? But I think the most important thing is that if you are a content creator, that you're doing your best to kind of follow your own path. That's really,
Well, that's why. Well, I get what you're saying. That's why for me, the whole creation part's for me. It's more difficult because I couldn't care less. Like with the whole relevance thing, it goes back to the niche market, and it goes back to if the market likes you, they like you, right? Like obviously, you don't want to post things that don't pertain to your brand, but at the end of the day, it's like you said, you're drinking a glass of water, and you're right. There's so many people. There's so many people for me that they're doing videos, more stylized editing. I'm talking about mental health and whatever, but I still get, a following. I still get likes because it's speaking to someone. And I think that's what it is that a lot of creators struggle with that because we're just so overexposed to all these creators and these social media platforms. We feel, intimidated. I know, speaking from my experience, I felt like that for the longest time. But then I told myself the only way I'm gonna make some progress is if I just put myself out there, and then I learn, I figure out where I went wrong, and then I fix it, and then I go back, and then I fix it again. And it's all about adjusting and adapting, right? Like for example, with TikTok, right? You might say, oh, I tried it a few times and it's not for me. And then in a year you get some inspiration and you do like, selfie videos where you're just basically like pumping everybody up, like stop sleeping in, wake up. Because I see them all the time. They're literally yelling at the camera, but but you know what I mean? But they're so charismatic. And like I said, I could see you doing something like, not obviously yelling, you're not that kind of guy, but you might find some point in your life, because we're always changing, right? And we always go through experiences. And I guess that's why I started my whole motivational videos is I would watch them on YouTube and say, you know what, like I love this. Like I would actually sit and listen to people talking about, what their routine is like, and how they overcame a creative obstacle, and just anything to help people, right? So you just got to find your niche, your avenue, and just kind of create a market or some sort of audience, like you said, with Tyler the Creator. But yeah, it always stems back to whatever works for you. My whole thing is don't do something that you're not comfortable with, or you're doing just for the sake of being viral or being popular, right? Like when TikTok first came out, I'm like, oh my god, I got to do I got to do a dance video? Like I don't know how to dance. And then I realized no, like there's other I'm gonna be honest, when it first came out, especially when the pandemic started, like that's all I would see, because they send you, it's part of the algorithm, right? And then as time passed, I realized, wow, there's people talking about their lives or their business, and especially with filmmaking, they do all kinds of edits. So I guess as long as you're alive, you'll always be relevant. That's my attitude.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good point.
Yeah.